We'll call our mid-month meeting to order, the County Commissioners meeting. If we would, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, Lord, we come to you and thank you, Lord, for today and for the blessings of being here today, Lord, and all the blessings that you bless us with each and every day. Show us and guide us as we try to make the best decisions for our county and leadership to go through our county and plan for our county's future, Lord. Pray for our nation. We pray that you'll give the leaders of our nation the guidance and understanding that they need to make the right decisions, Lord. Be with us and be with us. Keep us safe. Keep us healthy. Give thee all the praise and all the glory for these blessings I ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. So you need the approval of the agenda. There's no changes to be made.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion second. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Approve the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, that's what. Motion on the agenda. Approve. No add-ons or anything to it this time?
So moved.
A motion, I'll second that. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Just did that.
Did that twice.
Motion on the minutes.
Oh, we did the minutes. Sorry.
Motion on the minutes from 7-6 meeting. I trust everybody's read over that.
No change. I'll make a motion. We approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor, raise your right hand. Vote. Public comment time. Any person wishes to comment, please come forward. Seeing no movement, we'll move on down to presentation of the board. DA annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason.
What we've compiled today is a annual report for you from the TDA, and if you would, we'll start right off right at the beginning of that on the first sheet. And in respect to just the overview in itself, naturally you can see that while the occupancy tax revenues exceeded $90,000 this year, we also experienced a huge decline in the fourth quarter for COVID-19 and carrying through, that will continue to carry through the 2021 budget. So we also had a reduction in grant requests due to postponements and cancellations in the fourth quarter. And I think that will continue to happen too, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But also the TDA reports a larger than normal cycle as far as the money goes, but also that's due to the fact that we didn't in a budget or a budget base, a normal budget cycle based on the mid-June balance of $51,360. Now we'll go through the numbers here just a little bit so you kind of get an idea of what that's coming from and why we have a larger balance. And mainly it's primarily centered around the fact that we didn't have a lot of applications this last quarter, and in that case, that gave us a larger than normal balance. Our altered balance at the beginning of the budget cycle was $15,270,000. Then when you look at, naturally, our revenues were at $95,515. With expenses at $54,469.93. Now, what that basically leaves us is, and you'll see that as we go into it, we'll break that down just a little bit more. Now, if you go down just a little bit, we don't have anything outstanding currently as of 6/30, and no obligations of expenses at 6/30. But that is fixed on a date of 6/30 because it's fluid, and we're constantly getting in occupancy tax monies. So the balances continue to change on a daily basis, but we went and targeted it on that specific date. Now, on long-range planning funds, we've got $18,000 set aside for a large project. We've been accumulating that over a period of time at $6,000 a year for the last 3 years. And we have it in the budget for 2021 to put another $6,000 in there, so that's where the $24,000 comes from on the page. And Karen's reviewed these numbers. I know with her absence, we've had some communication back and forth, and we've gone over these numbers pretty solid, and she feels confident that what we're sharing with you today is solid numbers. The next page, starting at the bottom, are our grant listings of the grants that were issued for 19 and 20 budget, and there are breakdowns on each one of those down through the cycle. Now, there is one that you'll notice in the center of those numbers, a voided check for Blue Ridge Digest. That funding was actually a summer and a fall issues, and it was actually funded a third time in ERA, and it was withdrawn by that voided check. So the net issues out, again, match with the front page at 27,569. When you go down just below that, we've got the 2019-2020 grant approvals, events that have been canceled. Backwoods Beat event, it was approved, but no funds were allocated for that. And then if you go down into the next segment, 2019-20 approvals and disbursement, these items were approved but then dispersed in July. So those funds came out in July in the new budget. The last one there at the bottom is ones that are still in holding pattern, and that's Music on Main, postponed until later this year. And we were addressed by, for Lucas Oil tractor pull at the county fairgrounds, and that's being under review based on COVID-19, and we'll address that as we continue to go forward. Now, I will say also in reference to that, shift gears just a little bit, and Megan Edwards brought us a recommendation and a grant request for some signage approval and digital sign for the fairgrounds, and we've approved that, but that actually took place in the new budget cycle. So that will be recognized here shortly, and you'll be able to see that on our quarterly report review. So if we go to in kind of going through those, you've got more information on each one of these segments in Exhibit A. That will give you the information on the Tda Fund Balance, and that's a report that we get each session each month to review what numbers that we have and where we're at. That is compiled by the finance office, and that is one that we pay a lot of attention to make sure that we're on target, what we're doing, what our obligations are, and then also looking at what our long-range planning opportunities are. When you go to Exhibit B, that will be a breakdown of all our cost and expenses, with administrative being first. That's primarily two issues. That is our minutes taking, and then also the monies that we put forth through the TDA for the audit. And these numbers are audited, and that's where that first initial number came from on the front page. Then your next segment is a chamber administration. Being the fact that we don't have an administrative body or arm, we partner with the chamber to the administrative portion, and that's a portion of our proceeds. Then down to the marketing and promotion, that is funds that we send for our website with imaging. And then the last piece is the grants themselves, and that segment will start on the bottom of page 1 and work to page 2. Net check proceeds is $27,569. The Exhibit C will be a breakdown for revenues and expenses. And as you can see, if you go into the last column at the bottom, showing our year-to-date revenues at $90,345.46, and extended funds out year-to-date at $54,469.72. And then our last exhibit on D would be your breakdown of income coming in from the occupancy tax on a month-to-month basis. And I highlighted two particular numbers there in April and May, and noticeably downturn in those numbers. And that started really in our March numbers. Now, those are 1 month in arrear, so every month that shows, that's the month previous. We were still getting funds in for June, and we will continue to probably get those through late August. So those numbers will get put back into the budget for this past year, but at some point Karen will or the finance office will make a designated time period to shut that off. But I didn't know if there was any questions or anything as of right now, or
Feel comfortable with the forecast of downturn?
I think so. The two things that we've primarily tried to set aside right now, and it's really at the bottom of the first couple pages, is I think we'll reanalyze the numbers after the first quarter and be able to restage our budget appropriately, hopefully one way or the other. The numbers are starting to trend up, but it's slow. If you compare the numbers for July of last year and July we're sitting right now, they're softer. June's numbers were definitely softer, which was actually May's numbers. So we'll see as it continues. By the time we get to through the first quarter, we'll take a look and reevaluate where our budget's at and be able to give you that number a little bit more effectively. And the only other thing I put on there is we got to talking a little bit about the opportunities, and I think one of the opportunities that we have is I would love to invite the commissioners on a quarterly basis to attend the meetings, just to get a little bit more flavor of what's going on, what's happening, and where we're at. So,
Other questions?
I have some questions, Mr. Chairman. Sure. All right, I'm going to refer to, and you're going to get sick of hearing this today, the Strategic Economic Development Plan 2015 to 2020. In there, you were tasked with advertising in major markets. We're also with the Chamber and TDA. Now, I'm correct in stating that the funds that you dispersed for I just moved it out, but the various magazines and things of that nature, you're using that.
right.
Have we done any billboards?
Those actually will be, we haven't done any billboards recently, but I will say that we have some of the publications that come out with some of the funding that we do target those larger market areas, and then also the ones that we facilitate through the Chamber also target those markets too.
Okay. Mostly you're partnered with the Chamber on this. The one question that I do have, because I'm satisfied that you fulfilled the other commitments, is develop web presence for local businesses. You haven't made any progress on that?
I think that's some of the mindset for some of our long-range funding that we're putting together is to try to create more of a technological approach for advertising and looking at the opportunities there. And I think that's kind of where the target is for some of those funds.
What are you looking at as far as using the,
Well,
I guess
think,
it'd be
yeah.
Facebook or?
Right, but I think one of the things that, in some of the exploits of trying to do some of that, it was addressed when we had supported and funded some in the Allegheny, Authentic Allegheny, and trying to look at ways that can target different things from a perspective of not only supporting and developing information that is dispersed for the county, but also broader scope to try to reach a larger market.
Authentically Allegheny, or is that the only avenue that you're going to, or are aware of?
At this point, as far as the technological side of it, that's one area that we've dwelled in. Now, naturally, some of the advertisement that's done by specific targeted groups that ask for a grant request will target information that broadens that through technology as well.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing that up, Authentically Allegheny was created in March the 3rd, 2015. So far, it's had 2,538 likes. Now, this is as of July the 8th, whenever I checked it. 4 videos. 4 videos. What's happening outdoors in Allegheny? Created in May 29th, 2019. This is for your consideration. 2,732 likes again as of July the 3rd of July the 8th of 2015. 69 videos. Had 151,400 views. Of those 69 videos, on average, each video has been viewed 2,194 times. He also has done 3 hunting shows for WITN, I believe, out of Greenville, North Carolina. Those YouTube videos have been viewed 9,200 times. Now, where would your money be better spent? Oh, by the way,
I would say one thing. In regards to that point, we have no problem investing in those type of areas.
good, because
The greatest thing, excuse me just a second, the greatest thing is all we've got to do is be asked.
Well, what is particularly maddening, he has offered the videos to Authentically Allegheny, but it didn't meet their criteria, so he's sitting out there with something that has generated 151,000 views. We are trying to bring people into Allegheny County, but he can't
Yeah,
get an
absolutely.
audience.
Absolutely.
So I'm just giving you that information, and I'll
Sure.
be bringing it up later also on a subject that we're going to broach. But that is another avenue, and I'll be glad
Absolutely.
to provide the gentleman
Absolutely.
that does this. I mean, he
Yeah,
does it
absolutely.
just part-time, so we might have other avenues that will benefit us, although it may not meet
Well, the
the
one thing-
wine and
yeah.
cheese crowd criteria for what they'd like for Allegheny County to become.
I think the bottom line is just is the opportunity for us to just visit that world and talk about it and see what's available. And I mean, the board itself, I mean, our basic design is to be open to anybody that's interested in trying to do anything to help promote the county. So we're wide open to look at those options.
Thank you,
Sure.
Mr. Mason.
Yeah,
I've got to tell you, and I will tell you in front of the public, I'm impressed with your administrative skills. Everything's complete. You bring it in. It's right there. It's available. You're available. You're accessible. I think you're doing a good job, and hopefully now that people have learned the secret of how we can request money from you, you'll have more business.
Absolutely. I think the one thing that has been interesting in this whole process is just kind of taking a look at, where we need to be and what needs to happen going forward. And I think more information coming to this body is going to be a benefit all the way around.
Thank you, Mr. Mason.
The one thing I did put in there also in that breakdown is when the next quarterly presentations will be, and then the annual will be at that last quarter. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you very
absolutely.
much,
Thank
sir.
you, guys. Anything else? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we just kind of looked at the opportunity to take and look and see, one of the things that have been discussed, and it's been discussed in a couple of our meetings, is just looking at issues like trail development, mountain biking trails, something that would have more of an impact in regards to a larger amount of money determined or directed that way. Any kind of project that may have an impact on travel and tourism. I mean, that's and the goal was for us to take a look at. Too many times we've done a lot of smaller amounts, which has been beneficial for different groups, but being able to take a larger amount and invest it in something that could be long-term, I think that was the real goal in setting that money aside initially. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's some great opportunities, I think, for things that are going on. In the
Further
county.
questions?
Mark?
Steve, someone's
As an idea, they're thinking.
Yep.
Is there a criteria, a list, or guidelines, or things that you could hand them and say, here's some of the things you need to think about that we look at when approving funds?
There is, but the primary, when you really focus it down to the main thing, it really comes down to anything that, we're going to entertain anything that drives tourism or brings individuals to this county to either stay in this environment for a period of time.
If it clearly is not focused on doing that, then it's probably an idea for another.
Which I would say, if someone had an idea that even had the fringes of something that would have a tie to what the TDA is designed to do, we would still like to hear it, because I think the opportunity for us to move that and pivot it just a little bit that might have more impact to the community in another way, in a little bit different version. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. When Megan came to the TDA to talk to us about advancements of things going on and what they could do with the tractor pull, we started turning that table just a little bit and saying, what are other things that you want to try to do at the fairgrounds that will benefit the community, benefit tourism, and benefit putting heads in beds? And we started turning that around and taking a look at what we could do. And it helped her kind of see what path she could take in regards to the fairgrounds itself, but also what even leading us to the digital sign issue for promotion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think it would be more beneficial to state the law that created the TDA. 2/3 must go for tourism development. 1/3 can be used for capital improvements and things of that nature. So, like the example that I've given to my volunteer fire departments, if you're going to have a mudsling and it costs you $1,000 to do the mud pit, you can apply. That would fall into it.
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely.
Now, they've been absorbing that all along, and we've had a resource sitting there that we just didn't advertise, and nobody knew it was available except certain people that did know, and certainly they had the right to benefit from it.
One thing, Mr. Irwin, too, that I've had some conversation in regards to that I think will help benefit that source or that avenue is going to the fact of putting some publications in the paper. We've got some room and space in that right now to identify kind of what goes on, explain to how the TDA can impact the community and how you could go about pursuing different things. Now, that may lead us to getting a lot of bombardment, but that's okay, because the reality is once we weed through that and who becomes eligible will be as an opportunity to give us some things and do possibly even some of these big projects.
And you're not spending Allegheny taxpayers' money.
Well, we are, but they're coming in a different way.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I mean, we're spending the money that we're collecting through occupancy tax, which is not necessarily always individuals that are in our community. The other thing I just would like to say real quick, and I know that it's kind of been a little bit of a challenge for us in the last couple months, but I really would like to shout out for how much Karen Evans has helped us in regards to what we do every time we meet. And that's been a huge tool for us, and just having the ability to access numbers and be able to know that they're correct and feel comfortable about what we're handling, the money that we're handling. She's done a great job, and I really appreciate that. To see her go.
Thank you, Mr. Mason,
thank
for
you,
that
guys.
report.
Yeah, thank you.
Bringing everybody up to speed.
Recommend of the fund and listed $250 we refer to. And we that pay after $1,250 again. The past last time, all these families. advertising. Will not be paid for. Money would go back into the pot. For the- And we also sent that same thing. Not received. And all the paperwork. We've not. Hotels up. Have to go to so to be presented. We sent different North they pay through it. And they don't the rest of them. Different. We need
take those comments and check into this.
Could I respond to that something? I mean, I do have some response to that. I've been in conversation with Susan in regards to the 19 numbers, and we've had some information that we addressed and went back and forth. But to your 20, and the thing about the 19 numbers, we actually received the request in September for the July event. And I had some conversation with Susan, and we're in conversation, and we'll continue to go and have discussion about that. The 2020 we just received, and we actually had conversation about it this past TDA meeting.
I think
Requested.
passed out, we're not promoting.
That's correct.
Guidelines work to regardless. We'll allow them to be this year.
And I think the number you've got,
Advertised in 20.
the number that I think you requested was 850 for this particular cycle. And I spoke to Susan in regards to that, and that's being addressed, yeah. Absolutely. I guess one of the questions that I would have in regards to that, since Mr. Miles brought it up, is based on the structure. I know that in regards to the take a break off the interstate 3-day position of having the flea market along this corridor from Harmony to up to Whitfield, I know the fairgrounds is not participating this year because of COVID, and I saw that. I guess the fact of the matter is the question that I would ask, and I don't know the answer to, based on what we're analyzing and looking at from the TDA, is, from your opinion as a body, how should we address that in regards to this activity, or is that even an issue that I should be addressing with the commission in the first place?
Bring it out as consensus.
It's up to them.
And that's my understanding, so, I mean, it would be up to the board Yeah, and I understand that, and that's kind of why I asked the question, just to make sure where we're at in a position.
It would be with your TDA.
Okay, and that's fine, and that's where it's at right now, so that's what
Egan's
we'll handle.
Fairground, we're just complying with the state's orders.
Understand.
You know,
Understand. I mean, the way we view it in our discussion to a large degree is the fact that this is an event that's going on that's just going to facilitate through the county, and that's how we're going to address it.
Unfortunately, we as county commissioners have got to look at it as, are we endorsing an unsafe activity that could come back and bite us in the derriere?
Bylaws and all that.
Chairman, are we here for presentations or are we here for debate, sir?
We're here to do business.
Yep.
That's what we're here for. So TDA is going to
We'll
make their
address it.
decision.
We'll address that, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Next will be the BDC annual report, year-end report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to share a bit about what the Blue Ridge Business Development Center does on a day-to-day basis and across the year. We have a total of 49 office spaces available there in our facility. Of those, 40 are being utilized at this time. Our rent is $150 a month. That includes all the utilities, including light custodial, except for landline telephone. And for any second or subsequent offices, we give a 10% discount on those. And for especially the small businesses that are there in our building, they really like that setup because they know from month to month exactly what their operational bills are going to be. Their power bill doesn't go up or down. Their heating bill doesn't go up or down. We have 27 clients there in the building, or tenants in the building. Of those, 18 are private businesses, 5 are nonprofits, and then 4 are government related. That's community college, DMV, library. From those businesses, they create 25 full-time jobs, 7 part-time jobs, and then 13 volunteers or interns. And these internships are one of the things that's really beneficial because of our location with the college and the high school. For instance, Allegheny Community TV currently has 4 interns that they're utilizing that are high school students. Kate Irwin, she's used graphics design interns that go on to become actually paid employees. We do have a few entities that we furnish space to free of charge. One of those is DMV, and it's my understanding from way back, the only way that we could have a DMV, a license office, was for the county to furnish that, and so we furnished that. The Arts Council has an office there. They like that space because they can use that for in-kind matching funds for grant requests. The Historical Society has an office. The library has 2. The one that's maybe the most interesting is Aspire. It's Aspire Kids at Work. It's a judicial diversion program for at-risk teens. And they started up last fall and needed some administrative space. And so we've furnished them some space. They work with the Methodist Church with Grace Kitchen. And they're actually going to become paying tenants in August with when their new budget is adopted, and they're going to actually rent 2 offices. So in addition to that, we have meeting space for the public. We have a conference room and atrium, and in 2019, we hosted 395 meetings in those facilities, and there was 3,445 people attended those meetings. So one of the real benefits to that space is we have that number of people coming in. We have the diversity of businesses and nonprofits there, and it creates a collaborative work environment. So if someone comes in, they have a question about graphics design, web development, photography, if they want to understand insurance or real estate, we've got somebody in the building we can send them to, and they can get information on that. So from a tenant and a public standpoint, we find that that's very beneficial. We've also sort of shifted a bit over the past couple of years, less real hands-on economic development work. One is I'm a part-time employee. I average about 15 hours a week. And what we have found is that the Small Business Center is much better suited to handle those type of activities. So if someone comes to me, I find out what they need, and then I determine that they need to go to the Small Business Center or they need to go somewhere else. If they need financing, I try to find out what they need, and one of the referrals that we'll make is to the House Job Fund. So we try to get people connected to the right people that can actually help them. What we have taken up more of what I would call community development, and based on my experience, the only way to really raise a community or raise an organization is to increase the leadership capacity within that community. So last fall, along with the community college, we hosted Leadership Allegheny, and this was a 10-week program, or a 10-session program. We had 11 participants from across government, education, some nonprofits, and we did 8 days of training on all the different organizations within the community and what those organizations do and how we can work better together as a community. Ms. Temple, she was one of our participants in that. And then this spring, we also hosted a series of Zoom calls that we entitled Leading in Times of Crisis. And these were 7 90-minute Zoom calls. We had 35 participants from across the 3-county community college service area and a couple from Watauga. And these were people from government, private industry, education, nonprofits. And we truly focused on how do we really move forward during the times we're in now. How do we increase our leadership capacity? How do we actually diagnose what's at the core of our problems? So those are some things that we offer out to the community. To get to some budget items, in 2019, outside of our normal budget, we contributed $5,000 to the Allegheny County Stormwater Project. That was a stormwater project between the high school and the community college, which includes a walking path to make it easier for students to go back and forth between those facilities. We contributed $5,000 to the Community College Alliance for Entrepreneurial Development. This was the startup program, the website that the community college is involved in, and the BDC actually took a lead role in donating money to that project. We contributed $3,000 to the Allegheny Memorial Hospital Foundation. We contributed $2,000 to the salary of an intern that worked at the chamber in 2019. In early 2019, when Commissioner Evans was the chair, he and Chad Beasley came to us and asked if we would consider putting together a concert in the Sparta Auditorium to kind of gauge how much interest we could get with the local people attending a concert like that. And so we spent $3,200 promoting and setting up that concert. We contributed just a little over $3,000, $3,100 to the county marketing program, $500 to the Educational Foundation. We sent someone to the Outdoor Industry Conference up in Asheville. It was Donnie McCall. And then we also had representation at the Rural Day event. So these alone came up to $22,688 that were outside of our normal budget. And part of how we've been able to do that is over the past 5 years. 5 years ago, we had basically zero in a fund balance or a reserve account. And currently, we have $76,000 in that account. So we have built that account up over the years, which gives us the ability that if someone comes and they need some funding, especially some startup funding, we can actually utilize some of those reserve funds for that. So that reserve fund for us is it's just shy of 90% of our budget that we have in a reserve fund. And that's outside of our operational budget. Current budget for 2020 is $87,155. And you have a document there in front of you. It's our profit and loss statement for 2000. Our fiscal year works on the calendar year. So you can see our actual budget to actual, and we are operating about $11,000 in the black for the first 6 months of 2020. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have, but I would be glad to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions?
I have some, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
According to the agreement that we have, operational management agreement that was signed in October, you're the manager of the facility, are you not?
That's correct.
You have a military-grade fiber optic system that comes into the server room. Who's on that military-grade fiber optic, sir?
I don't have the answer for that.
The fiber optic or the server room should be operating at a temperature between 68 to 75 degrees, nothing above that. Right now, there is no thermostat in there, and the equipment is in an overheated atmosphere. Have you placed a work order in to rectify that problem?
Sir, I wasn't aware of any of those requirements or guidelines.
Your facility manager, there are 3 auxiliary power units in there that the batteries have not been replaced. Are you aware of that?
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but we have replaced some of the batteries in that server room in the past. I'm not sure if it's batteries that you're talking about.
The APUs, or auxiliary power units, there's 3 units down on the bottom of the racks. They're designed to have power on them until the backup power can come on. The batteries are dead. They have to be replaced periodically. We need to get a work order in on that. You've told me how much income you've generated and the money that you have been able to donate. Now, basically, the county is providing a facility at no cost, and the money that you are bringing in is what you are using to donate outside, if I'm correct. Or am I mistaken, sir?
I think that's basically correct.
Okay. Support and promotion of economic development and business activity within Allegheny County. What have you, can you give me an inventory of the business spaces that are available in Allegheny County now?
Sir, I can't.
Can you tell me what the cost of rental is by square foot on average in Allegheny County?
No, sir.
We're the director of Allegheny County Economic Development Corporation. Were the commissioners aware that we have an Allegheny County Economic Development Corporation? We're showing total assets $1,352,479. What is your assets? The only thing that I can think of is a building. This is off your 2017, the latest Form 990 filed with the IRS.
This is for which entity?
Allegheny County Economic Development Corporation.
So that's a revolving loan fund, and just in round numbers, there's roughly $80,000 in that fund. So as far as the numbers you're drawing from, I'm not sure where those come from.
I'm drawing from the IRS. Now, the funny thing that I thought about this, since the agreement that you have with the county is you are going to be the director of Allegheny County Economic Development, and all of a sudden we have a new organization coming in. It's going to do economic development and tourism. Are we replacing you? And if so, where's this $1,354,630 as of 2017? Now, my first thoughts were that you were counting the building as an asset, but I have a copy of the deed. The county owns the building. Now, with you working part-time, I can certainly understand with everything that you have, you cannot do everything that is in this agreement with working part-time, and I don't expect you to work this much if you were doing what is laid out here without sufficient payment. There's no way in the world. So I believe we need to look at our agreement. I believe that, well, let me
Is
ask
that-
this
is that
question.
the-
Are you going to be coming into the new board that we're setting up or being planned for tourism and economic development? Is the BDC going to come under that umbrella?
No, we'll be a cooperating organization, but we won't fall under that umbrella.
Will not follow under that umbrella for direction, anything else. So now we've got 3 people that are trying to do economic development and tourism, maybe 4. Chamber of Commerce, new organization, the Allegheny County Economic Development Committee. I don't see too much manufacturing come down. All right, the BDC. According to this 2000 Sparta Allegheny Strategic Economic Development Plan 2015 to 2020, have we developed a method of involving business owners in youth development programs?
We have, but it's more scattered out across various organizations instead of falling under one organization.
You are a Superman if you are able to do everything that's just placed upon your shoulders. Now, of course, the high school, Wilkes Community College, various other people were involved in this. Encourage local companies to expose youth to career, coordinate, and promote. What I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, people wanting to reinvent the wheel. Coming up, we're going to talk about support for a new economic development plan. We've had them all along. They're all over the daggone place. We're throwing money at them, $54,000 to Allegheny, authentically Allegheny last year. And we have not asked for results. Economic strategies, Admiral Rickover had a saying, and it concerns government, say and do. We say we will do this, we say we will do that, we say each year, and we do nothing. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. I thank you for your complete report. I thank you for everything that you've done over there. But I believe, Mr. County Manager, Adam, need to look at this contract that we've got and possibly consider the county taking over these duties. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Any other questions,
I've got one.
Bobby?
I missed what your fund balance was. Your current fund balance, was it 76,000?
Yes, sir. We have an operational account that's roughly around 46,000, and then we have a separate fund balance account that's 76.
There's 2 different fund balances.
One is an operational account that we work from, and then the other is more of what you would typically think of as a reserve account.
And that's the 76?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Commissioner Irwin raises a really good point that the economic efforts here in our county have been very diffused. They've been very spread out over a multitude of agencies, and this movement that's being proposed to create this Allegheny Chamber of Economic Development is a good move to rectify that situation, to put all of those into one organization so there's accountability to one organization and that the funds and the resources aren't so spread out.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the report.
And I would agree with you. It's like looking at a shotgun. You're looking at a shotgun pattern. Whenever I started looking into this, you go everywhere. Everybody has got a dog in the fight.
Which makes the case for, as what you just focusing.
It does make a case, sir, except whenever you started looking at the people that are running these organizations, it's the same people. I can show you from the Form 990s who's sitting on these committees. Same names keep on popping up, multiple committees. So we are going to be faced where we are going to be asked to go with a revolution, where we are going to form a new body that is going to have the same people that are running these organizations, and pray to the good Lord Almighty that there's going to be a different result. We are going to have a new definition of insanity.
So we should
Thank you,
never
sir.
run for reelection.
Amen.
Amen.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Next is Mr. D.W. Miles.
Wayne's gonna do it.
Thank you for the service that you are doing our county, and thankless job. Appreciate you doing an opportunity to speak. So we've already talked some about the road market. We'll go to that first. The road market was going to occur with or without our promotion this year. It is kind of a thing that has built its own livelihood. It does not have a specific leader. It is each community does their own promotion and does a good job with that. I know they gave you the figures last time, but you know, as far as bang for your buck, your road increases, they average between 132 and 178% rise in traffic for those weekends. Just a few things to let you know. Over 3,000 vendors along the 100 miles, average around $1,500 a piece. A lot of that is just folks that they're making their back-to-school money. They're turning some of their stuff and junk into money, and it's become a very good economic driver for that part of the year. As far as the COVID goes, we have spoken with Daniel Roten. He's in charge of the signs coming in out of the county. He's gonna change those over to supporting the governor's guidelines and promoting social distancing. With the event going to happen with or without us, that's the best we thought we could do with it. Hopefully folks will do that. It was going to happen, so let's make the best of it. One of the things about the 21 road market, it is a promotion not for the 3 weeks, but also for people to travel 21 and to enjoy our community and the parks and the things that we have along there to enjoy. Hopefully that goes over. The next part of this presentation is regarding the job fund. Growing up, Mom and Dad often picked people from their crew or people who had come by, and they would help them get started as a jobber. And in 2008, they made it official and put together a chunk of money to provide funds for Allegheny County people to have their little jump start business. We're currently making loans up to $10,000. We have processed 80 loans, 3 just this month. We have created 105 jobs. Some of those are part-time, some of those are still full-time. We're real proud of those. We've only had, I keep telling Dad not to worry about those, but we've only had 3 go down. I think over 80 and 3, that's a pretty good percentage. But if you don't give some folks that had a marginal chance, a chance to make it, what was the point of being there? But I'm real proud of the job fund and the folks who come and meet with us each month and talk about it. We try to guide people and try to help them through. We've made 13 loans just up here on the main street, on the main drag up here. Only one of those is still active. Some of them have come and gone. But I thought I'd give you all a chance to ask anything about the job fund, or it is a 501(c) charitable event. Do the road market as a sideline to that. Anybody got any questions?
And question on the jobs fund. There's always a big need in Allegheny County for maintenance, all engine repair. Have facilities that they could use to help them get started in that?
I can name a few places around town that they might be able to use. I think John made some great points a while ago about economic development. It's always been exactly what he said, shotgun. And I think if you could lump all that money together and try to get that singled, to know where those, and Dad, I mean, he knows every empty barn in Sparta. I mean, if there's a place and a location, they need to know that. And realistically, $10,000 in a job fund loan would be enough to get a small engine place started, and we need one.
Communication's what it is.
Okay, absolutely.
Any other questions? Appreciate the job you guys do.
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
Centralize economic development, wouldn't it make more sense to bring a permanent employee on with the county whose job would be economic development, going out and looking? That way, we make sure that that individual is looking. That individual can keep tap of, I'm sure the county manager, you get requests for space just about probably once a week or more.
Or times.
I would think, John, just top of my head, I would probably get more involved with one title that already exists, either the chamber or this gentleman that was here a minute ago, and get them with some of the paperwork you've already got there directed.
Right.
And if you're funding them, then give them those jobs. What are they supposed to know? What inventories do they know? And I think it's a great idea to pool some of that money.
We can't do this whenever we've got basically a part-time employee. There's no way in the world.
No,
As I've demonstrated, I believe,
No
just
way.
keeping up with the building and the maintenance, which is part of the contract, is a full-time job whenever you have a building that large. But, we agree, we need economic development.
Absolutely.
But we've got to have someone that isn't a part-time job or a spare job. It's someone that is going out there, taking the request,
I think that's a good
what
idea, John.
the inventory is of buildings in the county, knowing what the rental per square foot is, knowing what we have to do this, and it's not going to be a part-time job. If we're going to do economic development, we have got to jump in.
I agree with you, and I think also, John, we have to realize that it's probably not going to be manufacturing in a large way. We might get some little stuff, but it's going to be small business. It's going to be those kind of things that drive us. If you can paint, if you can plumb, the guys I went to school with, that I think the ag department at the high school should be much more emphasized, what we call the whole thing, the ag department. But if you look at the guys today that are plumbing and electrical and masonry, I mean, you can do that and make your living in Allegheny County. And you can't get one in 3 weeks, a month.
Those are good paying jobs.
Good paying
Good
jobs.
paying jobs.
But
And
those
I-
things need to be emphasized at our high school.
As your father, I'm sure, has told you, and you're well aware, mine told me, go to college, you'll have it made. If I'd been 1/10 of the mechanic of my father, yeah, I would have had it made. Because you don't find mechanics anymore. He knew theory. Can't find a mechanic.
A lot of parts
You've got
replacement.
people that will change out parts, but you don't have a mechanic, unfortunately. And those that are mechanics are busier than a one-armed paper hanger. But, you
So
know,
once again, thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
the job that you're doing.
Thanks for the presentation. Thank DW for all he's done and creating that 21 road market. It's a good event.
What do we do across the county? I would like to be our residents first of all. Nobody.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know that we have further on down about the chamber and the economic development, but for the last hour, we've just heard, about different organizations that have money. This whole discussion leads to this new organization being formed. I think every person adds something to this new organization. And the case has been made for the last hour.
Certainly has. I agree with that. It's got to have some direction, and that's get all these groups together and we move forward. Good time for a 5-minute recess right here.
Ready.
We'll call our meeting back to order. General business, next section, JCPC request.
I think Miss Evans is in the room today.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you all as well. Glad to be here. How's that? Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk to you all about is JCPC, or county funding plan. So I have been working with Rich Smith, who is our liaison between us and the state on JCPC. And he sent me this county funding plan, and it shows, in a nutshell, that we're going to receive more money, $69,000, in this budget year that we're in. When we, the budget committee, were meeting, we were only aware of $57,665. When I received the first communication from Rich on June the 30th, this was the first I had heard of monies for the year that we're in now. So the budget committee was basing our information off of the numbers last budget year. So, long story short, Rich emailed me this county funding plan that you all have in your packet right now. And a couple things to note. I told him we didn't have that much money budgeted. So, of course, it would be a conversation I'd have to bring here. And then the other part of this was that JCPC administration that you all see for $5,185. I was not aware, nor I had also talked with the budget committee, and they were not aware either about JCPC wanting to increase their administrative staff to a 30-hour-a-week position. So in my conversations with Rich, I went out on a limb, and I told him I had no idea what this board would do, but my limb was that I didn't think that Allegheny County would approve going to 30-hour a week, mainly solely because we actually cut some positions ourselves. So if that's the direction the board wants to go, that's totally fine, and we'll just let Rich know that. So there's a couple things here. One is that. Then the other thing is where we don't have enough money budgeted on the revenue side because it does take a 20% match. So it's not a straight pass-through. So we're looking at, let me back up and paint the whole picture. Commissioner Evans did come to the budget committee at one of our budget meetings and ask for $7,000 to be allocated from Partnership for Children to JCPC program. And I don't recall that being anything about the administrative position, Commissioner Evans. I remember it being more about teen court.
There was the new requirements, mandates for the teen court, the proposals that were put out, and to meet that requirement, there was not enough funding, original numbers, to be able to.
That was my recollection as well.
That's all that was for, was to take care of that additional court appropriation that the CPC.
Okay. So twofold is before you all today, to approve the county spending plan that's before you all. As I said, though, that is more revenues than what we have in our budget this year, but it also takes a 20% match on those additional revenues. The additional revenues is $12,109. So I'm not sure the direction the board wants to go. If you want to consider it and vote on it at your next meeting. I do know that JCPC can't allocate any of the monies to any of the programs until we have a county funding plan in place.
The difference is $12,109 more.
Yes.
How much?
12,109.
That's on the revenue
It's on the
side.
revenue side.
And then that would require an additional $2,500 from the county to meet the 20% match.
I mean, obviously, we don't have that money.
Nope.
We don't
Your
have the
recommendation
69.
is no on this?
My recommendation is, and county manager and I talked about this, I sent letters out to them just the same as I sent them out to everybody. And that's why I pointed out, my first correspondence, other than Commissioner Evans coming, and that was for about the 7,000, it wasn't the total program, and I understand that, was on June the 30th. So I don't feel like that we can adjust our budget and come up with $2,500 3 weeks later after the budget year starts. They just didn't give us the information. So my recommendation is keep it at the 57,000 that we have in the budget as it is, and not approve the $5,100 for going to the 30-hour position as well.
Mr. Carter.
Chairman, members of the board, I walked into this budget, and we all know what we walked into. And put a lot of work and effort into these lines, and we put a lot of thought into these lines. And I can tell you, I've already had additional requests from other agencies needing more money than what we adopted. And I flat out told them that I understand your concerns, but I'm sorry. The numbers are what the numbers are. I don't want to put it the wrong way. We adopted a budget with line items specifically for each organization and department. And to go away from those and make changes, I don't recommend it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I agree totally. Everybody was treated the same when they asked for the request. We look back at our history and learn from our history, adding on to requests, especially 2 weeks after the budget's finalized. That's what's gotten us into the trouble that we were in last year. We can't regress and go back and start getting in trouble again.
Right.
If we approve this, the next week it may be 3 or 4 more people. Well, I forgot to ask, or this isn't enough.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion, we decline the request.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, I would have a different take on it. I'd like to give them an opportunity to represent it, their original numbers and with our budget numbers, and arrange their numbers and maybe take out their part-time position and see if they could meet the needs and the mandates of the state.
It's my understanding, because Rich and I had that, we went down that road just a little bit, that he would just revise the county funding plan to make it the 57,000 that we already have budgeted in the revenues, and align it up with the additional 7,000 for the teen court. And at that point, the numbers would line up with what we have in the budget. So, knew that's something we could bring back before the board, or since it lines up with what is in the budget, is the board comfortable with me going ahead and signing that so they can get their monies rolling to get it to these different groups? Or does the board want me to bring that back?
On that point, my question would be, so that would then allow them to meet mandates that his thinking was that they could go ahead and, with that funding we approved already, they could adjust it and
It would just be-
take care of the needs. Mandates, I should say. As you
I didn't ask about the mandates. I asked more along the lines of, what if the board don't approve the 69, we're at the 57? And that's when he told me they would readjust the numbers.
essentially.
My motion was based on today's agenda. It doesn't mean they can't come back, but to settle that today. That's my motion.
We got a motion in 2 seconds. No discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
So do we want the revised funding plan that has the dollars that we already have budgeted? Do you want that to come back before the board, or is that, when he revises that, is that sufficient? Or,
I think it'd be sufficient as long as it meets our numbers.
in the past, that's the way it's been. As long as it matched our numbers, you know, I just went ahead and signed it as the finance officer, and
That's what we signed off on.
I believe county manager has a point, sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Chairman, I think that the number that was adopted in the budget could be applied towards whatever mandates are there. That the action of the board is basically to decline the increase and allow them to utilize the adopted numbers in the manner in which they so see fit. I don't see a need to come back.
It's up to them, right? Right.
thank you for that. Move right on down the list, if that's okay with you all. The next thing that's on the agenda is the DSS line item transfer. In your packet, you see a line item transfer from Lisa Osborne. She needs, this is for last budget year. She needs additional monies in public assistance for the foster care payments that we have to make. And so the reason this is coming before the board is because she has money in her social services department that she can transfer to the public assistance department, which takes board approval to do that. So as on the line item transfer, you can see she's pulling it from several different places. The main place she's pulling it from is Scanning. And she's estimated this to take care of all the foster care payments for last budget year.
This is just an administrative request of us. She's got the funds she can transfer from different line items to cover it.
Yes.
I would make that motion to approve.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Motion passes.
Okay. The next one down the agenda is, it's also a line item transfer as well. It's in this budget year, and it is dealing with our property liability insurance. And we have a new policy starting July 1, where the finance office staff, we are keeping track of everyone's line item transfers. And when they reach $5,000, regardless of reason, then those transfers come to the board. So what this one is when the budget committee was meeting, we hadn't received our quotes yet for our workers' comp and our property and liability insurance. And so we didn't know exactly how much it would be. Now that we actually have the quote / the actual invoice itself, we ended up a little over budget in workers' comp and under budget in property and liability. So the line item transfer that's before you all is just to move it from workers' comp to property and liability to be able to pay our insurance bill.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
The last thing that I have is budget amendment, Soil and Water Fund number 2, and it is also for last year. So if y'all will recall the conversations a few months ago about where Soil and Water Board wanted to receive the monies that we have in the Soil and Water Fund that we're holding for them, and the board approved that action. We were waiting to write that final check, so to speak, and when Soil and Water staff got ready to turn into requisition for this, because our interest was more than what we had anticipated, we're just a little bit short to be able to pay them out everything. So this budget amendment for $158 is to put the rest of the interest in place in order to be able to spend out everything that they have in that fund.
I would move to approve.
A motion, second, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Motion carries.
That is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Good to see you back.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Next is RFP to replace county attorney.
Chairman, members of the board, for the past couple of months, we have been talking about putting together some thoughts on the placement current county attorney who is moving on in the role. I asked for us to put together some information for a request for proposal. We've done that. We've sent that out. Know that Donna's had an opportunity to review as well. I think we have a finished product before you today. I know that the discussion has been to try and get this out and find someone so that we can make our best attempt in successfully trying to transition. And this is the final product. Wanted to have approval of the board to go ahead and put these out for request. I would, off the top, on the back page, and I think everyone's had an opportunity to look at it, but I would recommend, and maybe Donna could confirm, I would recommend at least a 30-day window on receiving, or more. Do you think we need to move more than 30 days?
30 days at least.
So, that's what I'm asking is that we have completed the RFP, we have the approval of an attorney. I think you guys have had an opportunity to view it. I'd like to put that out and get applications in and begin the process.
Motion on this. Go ahead and.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to let them go ahead and put this out for 30 days. No discussion? All in favor, right hand, please. 5-0. Next up is resolution supporting and reforming the Allegheny Chamber of Economic Development and Tourism.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I may, sir, I have a number of concerns. As I've pointed out, we already have a Allegheny County Economic Development Committee that's out there filing Form 990s. We don't know what we've got. We have a plan that was approved in 2015 by the county and the town. Says a lot of things, but nobody's done anything. Like I said, Admiral Rickover, to quote, do and, or say and do. The proposal that's in front of me right now, I look at proactively support current business countywide. That's in our Business Development Center Management Agreement. Innovatively pursue targeted economic development and tourism development. That's why we have a Chamber of Commerce and BDC spelled out in the contract. Align currently disparate efforts toward clear objectives. I agree with that, but that is also in the BDC contract that we have. We have no guidelines. We have no benchmarks. It is very, it's just out there. We're going to give them money if they show improvement. Well, if we hire a town crier, I guess that we can show that they have added a job and that we should then start giving them money. But then the problem becomes, without benchmarks, where's the money going to come from? You're constantly having to look. We don't know how much we're going to have to worry about the courthouse. Going to have to put on a little roof there. We don't know how much rotted wood we're going to run into. We don't know if we are going to have to replace insulation, if there is insulation in there. All of this is an expensive project. Now, I agree. We need a coordinated effort. I disagree in that we are suddenly going to come in and form another organization. To me, this should be a county function. We should make a position and hold their feet to the fire. We can fire them. We don't even know who's going to be running this organization. Now, we did have a slide presentation, but I don't have anything that I can refer to. And I spent my weekend in front of the computer on the IRS websites looking at various Form 990s, which, by the way, is a tax return for a nonprofit. One thing that struck me real quick, same names show up on many boards. I don't know who's combining into what. What's the umbrella organization? I would love to see if this is going to happen. I would like to see who is going to do what organizations are going to come under this umbrella organization with their board of directors to see if the same name still continues to show up, because we've got a track record. We can go back. We can look at prior years. We can refer to this economic development from 2015 to 2020 that is ending this year and see where the progress is. I'm just not satisfied with this. I would recommend to my fellow commissioners that we not approve it, certainly based on the fact that we don't have the money to obligate, unless you want to obligate $1, and I'll donate the $1. But there's too many unknowns in this. I'd like to see who's going to run it. The rumor control has it there's going to be 4 paid members. Where's the money coming from? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion?
Is there any money being asked for? I'm sorry.
No, your future obligations.
It's in our budget.
Yep.
But the money that we're putting in is built into our budget, so those.
Which we've already approved.
Well, Mr. Chairman, what I'm referring to, whereas the Allegheny County Board of Commissioners stipulate that annual funding from Allegheny County will be contingent upon satisfactory progress in meeting the economic development goals as established now, but there's no goals.
If we don't let them get started, we ain't never gonna know.
Well, let's put some goals out there, 100 full-time jobs.
There's many areas they'll be involved with.
But we already
I
have
don't
people
care what
that are involved in those areas. We have the TDA.
It's time to update and move this thing along. I believe the point has well been made in conversation this morning in support of this merger of these 3 groups from everybody that spoke this morning. So, Bobby had a question.
I've got a few comments and some questions. I think the concept is ideal. My concern is the benchmarks. We've got nothing to gauge by. But I would say, I would like to know what their progress, what they project their progress will be in 6 months, 8 months, whatever. then we know that the money is going in the right direction or the wrong direction. I think I would like to know what the total amount of money the county is paying all these different organizations come under one umbrella. I think that is taxpayers' money, and I've had several people ask me how much the county or how much are they giving to support the program. Concept of the program I fully support. But the benchmarks are what concerns me the most. I don't know, for some reason $50,000 sticks in my mind as what the county was going to allocate over the next 3 years for a total of $150,000, plus these other organizations would come under this new umbrella. They have thousands of dollars. What's that total going to finally be? And I just come back, I support the program, but I would very much like to know what the benchmarks are. That's all I've got.
Let's ask Mr. Brown if he would address that, the benchmarks, if you would.
So, thank you all for your attention. There's been a lot of conversation. Can you hear me now? Got it. So there's been a lot of conversation about this, and, you know, again, when we met a week or two or three ago, we weren't asking for any more money from this organization or the town either. So we provided some information we put together. So Bobby, this is off the top of my head. I don't have it right with me, but the town is giving the $10,000 to the chamber. It's giving the rent, which is $10,000 annually, and if you take out the visitor center and the bathrooms, the chamber probably only gets about 40% of that directly in terms of the rent abatement. They also, SRC gets $19,000 from the town. The county has done $50,000 to Authentically Allegheny, and that's what you were talking about for the next 3 years. We had a 3-year contract previously that has now ended, looking to extend that. You gave us last year $5,000 that has been cut to $4,700 is my understanding. So that's the county-town contribution. TDA has given on average about $32,000 for the last 2 years. That's the 1/3 allocation that has gone to the chamber, which has gone to the chamber since 2011. Prior to that, everybody should remember that 100% of TDA money went to the chamber and was administered under the guidelines of that ruling 2011-170, and the one previous to that, the 2004- whatever it was. So that's where the TDA money comes from. Privately, individuals have given between $30,000 and $40,000 a year in donations, memberships, if you will. The Mountain Heritage Festival has given between $10,000 and $15,000, advertising between $10,000 and $15,000. So you add that up, that's how much we have today from the different.
What's that grand total?
I don't know that off the top of my head. 180 to 200,000 is in that range, Bobby. So, but what we're proposing to do is to change this chamber organization, which is a 501c6, and the SRC, which is a 501c3, into a new organization, the Allegheny Chamber for Economic Development and Tourism, which will be a 501c3, where we will be able to go out and get more donations on a tax-free basis, or tax basis where people can get a deduction for tax personally, so we can get larger donations from people than the chamber would have enabled us to get, based upon the way the chamber tiered memberships are. And you can't get a tax deduction for a 501c6 chamber. So we're moving into this new organization. The BDC will continue to be an organization. The BDC will continue to put most of its focus on the building, whereas they partner with us to collaborate on ideas and things around economic development. This AECD that has been mentioned this morning was formed 20-plus years ago for a specific project to get water and sewer out town to an organization that needed water and sewer. It was formed for that purpose. It's been in business for that length of time. That organization pays back. That's what those $80,000 in funds are. They're payments back on a loan that they got via an economic development grant / loan process. Those funds can only be used for a revolving loan fund to help for economic development purposes. It cannot be used for any other purpose, operationally or otherwise. That organization is basically a dormant organization. It still has a board. It still should be filing reports, but it has basically been dormant. It has nothing to do with this new organization, nothing. So when we get through with this new organization, we're going to have, for the first time, an organization that is unified and that will own this 2015 to 20 economic development plan that was put together for this county. And it has 86 different points, and there are up-teen numbers of people that are responsible for those 86 points, but nobody's responsible for the final result. So what we're proposing is an organization that will take that plan, own it, be responsible for it, consolidate money and talent so we can get the right people that do get up every day focused on economic development and tourism. And that organization will be responsible for those benchmarks that you're wanting to see, and we agree with that. If this organization coming together, consolidating and aggregating its resources and the talent to help our county be better, if it doesn't reach the levels of success, it doesn't need to be funded. But I'll also, as I've said over and over, this is a long-term commitment. We're going to start down this path of getting the right kind of people to run this organization, to get the right kind of people to be supportive of this organization. And John mentioned earlier, and I just got to respond back to this wine and cheese group. This wine and cheese group are people that are coming into this county. I think that's what he's referring to, that have the best interest of this county at heart, doing what they can do, putting their time, effort, energy, and money into this county, trying to make it better. So I think that we want to have that. In fact, if you go back and remember, Authentically Allegheny, the purpose is to improve tourism to get what? More people to live here. That means it's going to be more people that are wine and cheese, to his point, that are going to try to work to make this county better. Now, that's what I'm here for. If I'm wine and cheese, if that's what he wants to call me, then let him call me that. But I'm here to help this county. I'm doing everything I can do in my power to help this county be better and more successful. I volunteer my time and I give my money to help this county be more successful. And there are lots more of us that are going to come together to work with people that live here. I'm tired of hearing about the we's and the they's. This is the us's. This is Allegheny County. This is who we are. The fact that I've made my commitment to live here is important, and others are making that commitment today. I was just at the brewery the other night listening to two couples, both from Raleigh, talking about how they just had located and come here and how they love it here. We're going to have those kind of people to come here to be successful. And if it's a we and a they, we're not going to be successful. It's us. It's us. It's Allegheny County residents who've decided to live here, all working together to be better. This organization, I hope that this organization is extraordinarily successful. We're going to work hard. We're going to get the right people in the right seats to make this work. We're going to consolidate this money and use it as effectively as possible. We're going to need your help. We're going to need you all to be as supportive of this as the people that are working on it. And I'll remind you again, this wasn't three people in a closet that came up with this plan. This was a wide variety of organizations in this community that came together to say this is a good plan. It included, I'll remind you, the town, the county, the BDC, the SRC, the chamber, the TDA, the college, and on and on. This was a plan that had wide discussion. It was also a plan that was talked to each and every one of you individually. It was a plan that was looked at on this board. It was a plan that had plenty of time to ask questions and go, how can we make it better? What are your questions? How can we do this to make this thing better? So we're looking for your support. We're not asking for any more money. You've got your money in the plan, $50,000 plus another $5,000 or so. That's $55,000 out of $18 million on promotion of economic development. The town's putting in, call it $30,000, $35,000 out of their $2 million budget. This is an opportunity for us to come together and work together to benefit our county. This is not a time for divisive rhetoric. It's not a time for pointing fingers. It's a time for saying we want to make our county better. And it's just simply the right thing to do, to consolidate resources and talent to get the best result so that we are, in fact, looking at a county that is going to be better. The last 10 years, in my view, in this county have been a lost decade. We haven't seen much value appreciation in our land. We've only seen value appreciation in houses in the last 18 months. That affects your ability to tax and to get the revenues to run our county, to run our town. If we don't work together, we're going to lose the next decade. We don't need to lose 20 years. The rest of North Carolina, the rest of the country rebounded. We didn't rebound as much. Our sales tax revenues lagged up until just recently, and they've got hit by COVID. We got a lot of challenges that we have to work together on to be successful. We don't need to be fighting each other. We need to be working together with each other. And if this solution needs a little tweaking here or there, we'll do that. Now, I also want to remind you that a town manager, the county manager, and one of you are going to be on the board too. So you're going to get to see exactly what's done. That's in the proposal. It's not going to be an organization you're not a part of. You are a part of it. We're going to do everything we can to be successful. But we need you. We need the town council. And we need others. The tent needs to get much bigger than our tent has been in terms of economic development and focus on tourism to improve the revenues for our county and our town. I'm committed. I hope you are. I'm committed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, let's keep it short. It's getting close to dinner time.
Well, I got 10 minutes according to Robert's Rules of Order.
There you go. Lay it to it.
TDA, that money is not yours.
Is absolutely not.
No, they
Never
have
has
got to
been.
vote.
And I know
But
this rule.
you made the statement that the Chamber of Commerce got the money.
You did.
They do if there is no TDA.
Wait a minute.
Read the statute.
I've
Madam,
read it as much as you have. And we know the answer as much as you know. And so here's the point. The TDA is a separate organization, separate from you.
Yes.
The TDA has approved that money going to the chamber for 11 years. The chamber has had
Is
no
no
control over that
guarantee
money.
that you will receive future.
No guarantee.
That's their decision.
It's their decision.
All right.
100% right.
Now, you say that you want us to be successful, and I agree with that. But what I am looking at is employment, long-term employment, manufacturing jobs.
Yes.
You are talking about bringing people in.
Yes.
One of the effects that Ashe County is feeling right now is land values have gotten up so high that the locals can't even afford to buy homes. They're coming to Alleghany, fortunately, so that they can buy property and commute over there. They don't like what's going on. You want to develop tourism. Tourism are low-paying jobs that only last 4 or 5 months out of the year. I would love to see manufacturing jobs that will give decent wages so that our youth can stay home and we can get this done. Now, why won't you disclose your membership? Who's going to be the president? Who is going to be the ruling body? Why can't we set benchmarks?
It has been disclosed. I disclosed it to you in
Where-
a room.
That's correct, but I do not have a document to look at right now.
We don't have the full organization fleshed out. We're working on it now.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I
Hold on,
suggest
can I
that whenever
respond?
the organization is formed, that we take this matter up. I call the motion.
Okay.
It's a 3-2 if it's going to be anyway. Let's get it over with. Call the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the plan.
Got a motion, here a second. Got a second over here, we got one more question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The way I look at what you've just been through, for speech, you've been through it several times, personally and group-wise. I see this as a business model, that you come out of the business industry, you see consolidation of a government agency, which this part of the government was responsible to basically nobody. This group was responsible to nobody. You're putting it all under one umbrella, where there will be some responsibility.
Accountability.
I think that's a perfect plan. I support this plan, but I still come back to that one thing, the benchmarks,
Yes, sir.
which you have not addressed, that in whatever the time period is, this is where we're going to be.
Yep.
I think the plan has very, very much support among the community, among most of the commissioners, among most of the town council. But you have to remember, we're talking about taxpayers'
100%.
money.
Yes,
That's the only thing that I ask is benchmarks.
sir.
Other
You will
than
get
that,
them.
I'm very happy.
You will get those, Bobby. If you remember the other night, we showed you that list. It was a list of all those. We need to help decide what are the top 5, 10 of those, and then really look at them. As I said, you all are on the board too. Michael and whoever you choose to be on the board, town council, town manager, whoever they choose. So you're going to be at the table helping to decide what are those benchmarks and how do we best get those things accomplished. And to Mr. Irwin's comment about manufacturing jobs, we'd love to do that, but the likelihood is not going to be able to get large manufacturing companies to come here. But what can we do? We think we got broadband capacity, telework capacity. We think there's call center opportunities. We think that there are ways that we can get entrepreneurs, particularly outdoor entrepreneurs, that can come here to take advantage of our beauty, our rivers, our hiking, and maybe get entrepreneurs that can have 5, 10 jobs. This is going to be hard, steady work for the future. And I think that this organization, with your help, is the right thing to do for now, to take the ownership of economic development and tourism. And tourism is at its root how you get people to see you. People come visit here. They see how things are beautiful and what we have to offer, and they decide to come back. Our tourism industry is never going to be significant. We don't have the infrastructure for it. But it's a way for people to see us and visit us and become familiar and decide to come here. It all goes hand in hand.
Mr. Brown, you've answered my questions. You've answered my questions that the citizens have asked me about the money. Maybe not to the penny, but you've given a good breakdown of how that money, where it comes from different organizations. You have a motion and a second.
I just want to throw this out. I get this question a lot, is why Sparta can never have a box store or a bigger store. It's simply population driven. If you don't have the people, they're not coming. Big business thing. Anyway, we've got a motion and a second in supporting a resolution of support for forming the Allegheny Chamber of Economic Development and Tourism. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? 4-1. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Rules of procedure, discussion and revision. It's up next. My thoughts on this, I think we need to alter, change on the procedures to let our citizens have a little more room to talk at a meeting. I think we need to look at that closely. For the citizens to have more ability to talk at a meeting without, where they don't have any voting, ask for any board action to be approved. I think they need to be allowed to vote instead of being put off to the next
Mr. Chairman, why are we doing this? Because you've just exercised the authority in this meeting. You've allowed people to come in, make their presentations, they weren't on the agenda. They were here to make an agenda, then they start making arguments. So we have waived the rules today. Just want to formalize it?
Well, all I'm saying is I think our citizens has a fair shot to stand up and talk.
We're here to-
When there's no board action required.
We're here to serve them, so I think we owe them that.
They pay the bills around here, so I think they should. Mr. Manager.
Just one comment about your agenda in general. You have 2 public comment times on your agenda. First one is for citizens to comment on any item on the agenda. And the second one is for citizens to comment on anything else. And sometimes the meetings go on. And if someone here is to talk about something not on the agenda, they have to wait until the conclusion of the agenda to be able to speak according to this format. What prevents you from having one comment time for items on the agenda or not requiring a vote? I think that's what you're trying, if I understand it correctly, we're trying to give the citizens an opportunity early in the meeting, not that they can't stay or not that they don't want to stay. But if there's a non-voting item, why do we have to have 2 separate comment periods? Why can we not just address them both in one?
Point.
I think we could, when somebody calls on a Friday and wants to add something to the agenda, do we direct them to the public comment part of the agenda?
If it's not on the agenda, we can't vote on it.
They can
It's a
certainly
non-voting
speak, but
thing.
it can be carried forward to the next agenda.
Right.
There's a little bit of history to why it's
history.
that way.
A lot of history.
Years ago, and I don't know the years, but it was always at the beginning, and it was the one just like you're talking about. There would be folks coming, and there really didn't, I don't think they had very good rules or rule enforcements for those comments on a time frame set. I think that to be the case. There were comments that had nothing to do with local county government and just on and on and on, and it really weighed heavily on starting the meeting. Then, at some point, prior to me becoming a commissioner, that was moved at the end to try to help deter some of that. So they moved everything to the end. When I became a commissioner, I struggled a little bit with that because it gave no citizens an opportunity to speak on the items on the agenda of which we were about to consider for county action. And so at that time, the chairman, I talked to him and we talked a little bit about it, and he said, you know, and he was involved, I think, when they made that change to put it all at the back. He said, I've always struggled a little bit with that, so we talked about maybe splitting it up so that we could kind of control the content of the initial comments to agenda items and then whatever afterwards. But I agree with what the whole premise is of revisiting this is somebody having to sit here for a long time to maybe make a points or added.
One additional thought to that, and I've been involved in comment periods which there was a set time. I'll just say it was a 15 or a 20-minute block that was for public comment. And if, you know, the individual, and the rules are there, it clearly identifies that up there. If there were more people here that exceeded that time limit, you did one of two things. You either divided it by the number of speakers and maybe everybody got 1 or 2 minutes instead of 3 to whatever, or has extended the ability during the public comment time to let everyone speak. But I think there are ways in which you can look at that. What the right scenario is, I don't know, but for people, to address Commissioner Prince, if someone calls up on Friday and wants to be on the agenda, I think they certainly have the ability to speak during public comment time. But if they need an item for some kind of vote, then that item, they have a choice. You can either show up and identify it, and it will be placed on the next agenda for consideration, or we place them on the next agenda and identify that to them up front.
I guess what I want to see us eliminate is the 2-week delay if they've got something they want to communicate. If they have to wait until the next meeting, then that puts it off. If it's just information, I don't see the harm in letting a simple majority approve it.
We don't usually respond to comments. They get up and they speak whatever they want to speak about for their 3 minutes. I think that's what Larry's relating to. That's what I'm getting to. I just think they need the ability to speak and not have to sit here for 2 hours to get to say 3 minutes worth of whatever they want to say.
As long as there's no vote required.
No voting, this don't require voting, that's right. That would work on the front end if we do it in that comment.
In theory, somebody could show up 5 minutes before the meeting and want to speak during public comment time, and could.
Mm-hmm.
We want to.
I believe what you're addressing is you want to take away the unanimous vote to change the agenda, though.
If it's a non-voting item.
Non-voting items, all we're referring to. Non-voting item, comments.
My comments are simply to consider a way during public comment time to allow for discussion, not a vote, not to add an item to an agenda, because this is all citizens that are coming in to speak about public comments. Those aren't agenda-specific items, unless they decide that they need some type of vote of action, which would either be postponed until the next one or identified up front.
We have the capability of adding to the agenda with the unanimous vote.
3 days prior. I think that's what came up before. So I'm not suggesting changing that. I'm just recommending that we look at public comment time in a different fashion, as long as there's no degree of voting required.
So you're saying allow the first public comment to be on anything other than what's on the agenda?
Buying the 2 in the beginning.
I think you combine the two.
Maybe back to what Mark was talking about, delay forever getting
So
the
we
meeting
would
started.
set limits on the total block of time, and then we have a 3-minute time.
You can establish, and Donna, you can correct me, but you can establish in a set, and I'll say 15 minutes just for practical purposes. You can set a 15-minute block for citizens time. And if you open citizens time and there's no one here to speak about it, then you can leave it open and continue on with your agenda. It's not like you have to sit idle, and then if someone comes in, you can readdress it. But if there are 5 people here, they each get 3 minutes. Now, if there's 15 people here, then you've got that window that you're going to have to say that we have in excess of, we have 15 speakers and our citizens' time is for this.
I think the statutes make you have at least 30 minutes per month. I think it's 30. I haven't looked at that rule in a long time, but I think there is a statutory provision for how much time you have to allot for public comments within a month. It doesn't have to be at a single meeting. It could be, but it doesn't have to be.
With your 2-meeting schedule.
So with the 2-meeting schedule, if you did 15 minutes each, that would work. I know at one point we had 30 minutes allotted for public comment time at every meeting, and I know that exceeds what's required.
30 a month.
I think it's 30 per month.
I think that's something Donna needs to find out before we even address making any changes, what the legal requirements are. I think the public should have the right to speak about anything they want to speak
There
about.
too.
And I know that Mark is correct, that one of the abuses is that one individual tried to take all 30 minutes every meeting. And that was when we went to the split of saying, if you want to address an item on the agenda, do it before it's voted on. And if it's other things, I mean, a lot of people come in just to give the public information about an event coming up, just to give a date and a small introduction into what that event is. And you're right, they have to wait till the end of the meeting. On the other hand, I just want to put this out there. You have staff members that come to these meetings, especially the day meeting, and they're going to have to wait if you extend the public comment time without some sort of time constraint. It's a balance.
If it needs to be the time restraints on it, but I think we need to try to accommodate the public a little better on the front end of the meeting.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
according to county and municipal government, legal requirements, participation is a broad term. By state law, the main requirement relating to participation for local government is that they provide an opportunity for members of the public to observe the decision-making process in open meetings and to comment on major proposals before the government takes action. Open meeting laws described in Chapter 9, open meetings, boom, boom, boom. Then it also puts in, on the other hand, 2 ways. Local governments are required to obtain opinions and feedback from citizens in 2 ways, in public hearings and in public comment periods held during regular meetings of county commissioners or city councils. So it's a requirement, we got to do it.
We have our rules of procedures. You against, I mean, your thoughts on citizens coming in to talk, just to talk for a comment. Now, no vote.
I have no problems with it. Where we ran into problems, we were requiring a vote, and they did not meet the 3-day deadline. That was the only objection I had.
You just simply, the citizens of the county should have their right to come in here and talk.
Nobody's denying that. We've
Well,
got public comments.
There's a lot of rules and procedures they got to jump through to get there if
they want action, only if they want action.
I'm not talking about action. I'm just talking about a comment. Just to get up and, like Donna said, a lot of it's just to announce an event or whatever they want to talk about.
Well, yeah, you've got that capability. Of course, they got to go through all this because we've got it towards the end of the agenda if we want to move it.
I think we'll need to work towards Mr. Carter's idea there about combining the 2 on the front end.
As an add to that, a lot of governments utilize sign-up sheets for public comment time. They'll have it at a table near one of the entry doors, and prior to that public comment time, someone will get up, myself, whomever, go get it, hand it to the chair, and the chair will have an idea of how many people have signed up to speak. And if it's 2 or it's 20, then you utilize that within your allotted time frame. And then after the completion of that, you always give those remaining, is there anyone else here that wishes to speak? And if nobody does, then you've met that criteria. Off you go. So I think when you consider it, I think adding a sign-up sheet for public comments is an appropriate thing to consider as well.
Bobby?
When has our current policy not worked? What's brought this up?
Well, I just thought 2 weeks ago. I mean, we could accommodate it, and the gentleman could have said it, whatever he's wanted to talk about, and he could have went on home. He had to sit here for 2 hours to speak for 3 minutes.
I think he acknowledged that he didn't understand what the rules were, and it was no problem on his part to come back the following week. And I think the board, accepted that. This policy, I think Donna's been here longer than any of us, and I don't know how long it's been in effect, but it's one occurrence from one person. I don't know that warrants changing our policy, came back 2 weeks later and made his comments. I heard nothing that he complained about not being able to speak.
What if it was more timely need to communicate than what this was? We denied him the ability to do it.
I just look at part of the history that Mark has brought up. I don't know what that history, but Donna, I guess, she knows pretty well.
She experienced it.
Yeah.
I heard about it. There's a
Well,
difference.
But really, what we got caught up in, we had one item that was going to require a vote, and we voted on it today. And I used the rules of procedure to prevent that, and Mr. Miles was caught up in it, because we couldn't say, no, we're not going to do this, and we'll do that one.
I was doing those separately, and you made the statement, I'm not voting for neither one,
Well,
just to set the record straight here.
that's because of the agenda.
We could have done them separately with no problem, but we didn't choose to
Nobody
do
made
that.
that motion.
Because you made a motion that you wasn't going to support neither one. And vote for it, so
So
therefore
we
it was
could have had a
dead,
counter motion,
It
and
was
I
dead in the water.
would accept it.
you know? But anyway,
Well, in that situation, Mr. Chairman, since it requires a unanimous vote, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, if it's 4-1 for anything, then it's not going to be added to the agenda, regardless of whether there's action requested or if it's just a presentation. So, I mean, I think that's kind of what you're looking at is if we had the ability to add something, a non-voting item to the agenda the day of the meeting, it wouldn't require a unanimous vote. For a non-action item, I'd support that.
for not voting, non-action, now, that's what we're talking
But I
about.
think also combining the public comment, getting it up front with some rules being enforced on timeframes, I think we could address it probably either way. And I'm good either way.
As long as we make the citizens aware they have that opportunity at the beginning of the meeting.
Exactly, and sign the paper when they sign in, that's another good
A sign-up sheet.
sign up.
That doesn't require, I don't think that requires a change in the policies.
And I think
It
that
would
we
to get
should
around
use
the
the time
unanimous
frame.
vote.
Does in that your rules and procedures specify the two different public comment
Right.
times and what they're
Change.
for. And if you're changing it so that you're doing one public comment time up front for 15 minutes, it needs to be changed to show that it's for anything other than just comments on items already on the agenda. Under rule number 10, it specifies public agenda comments and public comments.
We have public comments and then agenda comments. All we're doing is rearranging the agenda items.
That requires a change of what we've been doing.
I think either way, it requires a change in your rules and procedures, but I don't see that as a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
These are your rules and procedures so long as you have 30 minutes per month for public comments of some sort. Just tell us how you want it, and it can be rewritten, and then you could change it.
It seems to me it's more confusing for people to figure out if they want to talk during the first one or the second one. So if you have one that they can talk about whatever at, to me, that would make it simpler.
I'd make a motion that we have one at the beginning 15-minute period with a sign-up sheet or any item.
For anything.
Second that motion.
I've got a question. If we do make this change, I'm not opposed to the change. I don't know if Donna needs to look at it to be sure that it's a legal change.
I think we're fine. I think
Everything
it's
that we're
30 minutes
doing.
per month, but I'll go back and double check that, and if there is an issue, I'll tell the county manager, and we can readdress it next meeting.
What I would like is when a person comes to speak, that Drew starts the clock. We haven't been using the clock. And when the 3 minutes are up, that's it. There's no 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 20 seconds added on to their discussion. they're going to be allowed to speak for 3 minutes on any subject, then the time frame should be 3 minutes.
Well, I think you should be allowed a 5-second for them just
Well-
to close and get off instead
Well,
of saying, we're done.
But some of them go on for a minute or 2 minutes.
That's true.
Mr. Chairman, I can understand where there may be a situation where they would require more than 3 minutes and they are not speaking for a group.
True.
And I believe with unanimous consent, the board could allow extra time.
For a vote.
A motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
It's a motion.
Motion is to accommodate the citizens with
Let's see
a
what,
comment.
see what the motion
To
is.
allow for one public comment time at the
Public
start of the
comment.
meeting.
Number 9.
Yes.
All in favor, raise your right hand.
15 minutes.
She needs to add that.
Will.
When
We're still having 2 of those a month.
Address that.
start of the meeting.
Okay,
That was simple enough.
yeah, we got the motion. Call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. How about,
Whenever we start talking about how many angels will sit on the head of a pin, I'm leaving.
next up is Ag Board appointments.
Motion to approve as presented, sir.
We've got 2
The what now?
Ag Board appointments, page 23.
Second the motion.
There's some new and reappointments. Susie Gamble, Alvin Dixon, and Bobby Davis is the old members going back on. New members, Aaron Gamble and Earl Deal. We got a motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. JCPC designate for the county district attorney's office. Basement Matthew.
Chuck.
Thank you. Thank you. Let Chuck.
Yeah. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. I hear a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. CPC Board appointments. Andy Earnhardt, Kay Lepin, Lisa Osborne, and Mark Evans, 2-year terms.
I thought I took Mark's place at the beginning of the year. Nobody's called me. I don't know, is that the one? I know I took one for you because you picked up one.
This
There's been another board.
No, this one's
I
mine.
can't keep them straight. Motion to approve, sir.
Got a motion to hear a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Consent agenda, board action required.
Chairman, I have no questions on the consent agenda, and if no other commissioner has any questions, I will make a motion to approve.
Hang on just a second. Ready to explain the application for property relief on a disabled veteran there a little bit, elaborate on that.
Certainly. The application was late coming in. It would have been approved had it been timely filed. The reasoning in their letter was due to the COVID epidemic. Would have been approved, it had been timely filed. The board usually goes ahead and approves those.
Late was it, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Have to vote on that individually, or is it total package? Total package.
30 days.
30 days late, so it wasn't that,
I second the
That
motion.
was COVID related, right?
Yes, that was her explanation, yes, sir.
Seconded motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Raise your right hand. 5-0. Anything you got going there?
Not part of the consent agenda, but the items that I have to do at this meeting every year. Want me to go ahead and go over that now?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so the first thing, I tried to divide it up into 3 separate packets of information for you. The first thing I have to do is the settlement for the 2019-2020 tax year. So in that, I have included a copy of the statute, which says I have to give you a list of real property owners with unpaid 2019 taxes and a list of personal property and GAP vehicle bills that have 2019 taxes, and then a copy of the settlement report. Be glad to answer any questions that you have on any of those.
You got any questions?
Next thing is in packet, what I label packet B is the insolvents. And this is where, at the end of the year, I'll go back to anything that's 10 years old or older that we have tried to collect by any means we have not been able to collect. So I bring those and request those to be deemed insolvent before the board, since we no longer have to deal with tagged motor vehicles for the first year. This time, we only have personal property taxes, and that amount is $1,006.95. So that's the thing in that requires a vote, and then the other thing is the order to collect the 2020 taxes.
I hear a motion.
So moved.
A motion, here a second.
Second.
Motion second, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Yes.
Yep, one last thing. Drew had asked that I go over the solid waste sticker stuff with you that's be coming out in the bills the last day of this month. This year they are orange and a different placement on the windshield for the board and citizens to know. So it'll be in the lower part of the windshield on the driver's side. And then we just had, we kind of simplified our landfill sticker policy, I believe, from what we had last year. And if there's any questions on any of that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Got any questions?
And one final thing, we had been talking in the office about how to control traffic flow, especially the first and the last week of August, as far as lines in the hallway. We've had periods where they're lined up pretty well right now for just tags. So I talked to Mr. Carter this morning, and we're got approval to open that side door for the month of August. And we're still trying to formulate a ingenious plan to control traffic for those who are going to be in the tax and in the tag office at the same time. So we're going to try to work that out. But we are going to open that side door for just the month of August to help control that a little bit.
Busiest.
Yes, that first and last week. It's busy all August, but the first and last week, much more so.
I was surprised the other day, you had about 4 sitting out in the hall.
That's not really, that's pretty usual. But, so that will hopefully help that. Tax bills will go in the mail last day of the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment time. Anyone has any comments they want to make? Seeing none, we'll move on down to county manager's comments.
Chairman, I have a few comments this morning. The first one, you see the June building inspection report on page 57 of your packet. I encourage you to look that over. Second one, get in trouble for, but I wanted to make the board and everyone aware that today is a special day for an individual in this room. Happens to be Miss Temple's birthday today.
Really?
I will not disclose the number, but I did want to make that publicly announced that it is her birthday, so happy birthday, Drew.
You aren't asking us to sing happy birthday to her, are you?
And a speech.
The remaining items, I try to give you all a facilities update each month, and I try to do my best to keep them in some type of order. But a quick update on the courthouse. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The group is going to come back, and they're actually going to dismantle one of the windows. I think we've mentioned before that some of the water infiltration is around the windows, so they're going to come back and dismantle one to determine what process was used and how we can remedy that. They're also going to do an additional cut or two in the wall contents themselves. There's nothing that's been identified on the interior wall space at this point, and there's not a high level really within the clerk's office that we need to be concerned about. We've got to do some routine cleaning. We have a very large dehumidifier running, so we're doing what we can. We will be getting a detailed roof report sometime next week, which will help us in our assessment on what type of remediation that we'll have to go through to complete that facility. So, and all these are kind of related. It's just one big puzzle that we're trying to put together. Let's move to the old Council on Aging facility. The board authorized me to engage with Frank Randall and Associates. He will be here in the morning at 8 o'clock to go back through the old Council on Aging building to do some additional work. I think I've distributed some plans, actual plans, not paper plans. They're working more in detail on that. We'll actually have their agreement on your August 3rd agenda for consideration. So we'll get that done. Been working, trying to, I've emphasized time and money as our items to be focused on. And they're out turning over rocks. They've actually found one of the detention plumbing fixtures at another locality that we can get for a fairly decent price. So we're trying to make every little bit help there. So that's the first one. Everyone, I think, has seen the exhibit that I sent out with the attachments identifying the planning for that facility. And just by a written identification, looks like we're looking first quarter next year to have that facility completed. That's different than what was originally thought, but this will work. I will put it that way. So working towards that on that facility. There's been a little bit of discussion about PSAP and the location of that. I know that there was some discussion about the possibility of locating that in the upper level of the old COA facility. I think there's a better location that's been identified. It also helps out with the separation distance. I think you all remember me sending out a map that identifies a mile distance, and we're working towards that. I'm not going to reveal that additional site at this point, but I think we have an option for that. One thing to keep in mind with PSAPs, they are considered a level 4 facility in the building code, and they require the building to be designed to withstand certain seismic and wind loads. So when we're talking about these things, we have to keep all of that in mind. Now, if we can identify one that is currently constructed to meet that criteria, we're that much ahead. If not, we put it somewhere that's not, additional costs and times involved. So we need to keep that in mind also as we're putting this puzzle together. The new Council on Aging facility is still on track, end of the month, which is great. There has been some donations that have came in. That has allowed for some of the remaining items to be purchased, not with county funds, which is great. We're working towards getting those completed. There's also, if you've been up, you know that the parking area is gravel. There have been some concerns about the handicap accessibility with those gravelled spots. So, in talking with Karen Edwards, there has been some funds located and identified that's going to allow them to pave those handicap spots, which is nothing more than a plus as well. So she and I have talked about that and getting that taken care of. So all good news. No county funds. All good news. And now let's talk temporary courtroom facility. Let's wind it up with that. So for a few meetings now, we've been talking about utilization of this room as a temporary court facility. We've talked about the black building out at the fairgrounds as a possibility. And in communication with the courts, and specifically with Susie Gamble has been doing the in-betweens, which I'm greatly appreciative of. Last piece of the puzzle to utilize the black building came through last Friday evening. They actually had their IT person come back up, and the black building is suitable to hold temporary court in with the ability of the IT. Now, along with that, and I was having a conversation with Anna earlier, as of last week, Justice has postponed jury trials until the end of September.
At least.
At least. Now, we have one scheduled in October, and she and I were sharing stories, but obviously we need more than 2 weeks to prepare if it does not go beyond September, and I think that's going to occur. She's instructed me that we'll be probably made aware of probably in September sometime. So that's a month and a half, and we can move a whole lot of things in a month and a half. But the key thing was getting it approved for IT usage. Still allowing this room to be used as one-stop voting. We don't have the expense of sending that out. There are going to be some expenses to retrofit the bench and associated items in the bottom of the courthouse are there. You can move them, so that's been answered. That's an accommodation, and I think that we're getting these pieces aligned properly. And I'm going to come in here one day and I'll have a big list, and it's going to have a lot of things tied to it, but we've got to get these things. They all are based on each other. So you can't focus on one. You got to focus on all of them to make them work. So that's where we're at right now. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But I'm doing the best that I can do to get these things coordinated and implemented.
Sounds like good progress to me.
What's the status on the tire business?
The
recycling tires?
There was a call last week from one of the dealerships that had experienced some difficulties in unloading their waste tires. Primarily because we only had one trailer on site and it was full. I had to dig into some things and find out the whole situation, but basically what's happened is about a year ago, a decision was made. The county has 2 tire trailers. Decision was made to take one of the trailers when it was filled to the disposal site, drop the trailer, and leave it. And then when the other trailer filled up, hook to it, take it down, pick up the empty, and leave the one that we just took down. So we were dovetailing. Personally, that may work out okay for the transporter, because the transporter's not sitting around a couple of hours to wait on the trailer to be emptied. Now, the guys at the transfer facility are calling today to find out what the turnaround on unloading a trailer is. It may be 2 hours, it may be 4. We're going to find that out. Once we get that, I understand that there's been no increase in the transportation cost some time. I think for the benefit of the county and its residents and its businesses, we need both those trailers back on site. And if it costs a little more money, that individual to have to wait on that trailer to be unloaded, then I think that's a cost we ought to put into. I know that there's questions about placing containers at dealerships, which would be great. I can tell you those containers aren't cheap as well. And until we can find out how many hours is going to be added to the transportation side of it, can't say that a container would be the ideal solution. What I can say is I think 2 trailers on site is going to be the answer, because apparently it did work. We changed that. That's where we're at. Hopefully I'll know more by the end of this week.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner comments? Commissioner?
None other than happy birthday, Drew.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work. Your
I just don't know where the butter is at. This would be good to get on TV. Bobby?
Just one comment about what property is owned by the county and what property is owned by different departments. Example, or 2 examples, would be one at the Council on Aging. They have, if you've been through the upstairs, if you've been down into the sub-basement, there's all sorts of items that are stored. And Mr. Carter and I were there the last time. We asked Karen who owned what, about having a yard sale or adding everything into the county surplus sale that we used to have yearly. And the answer was basically they just didn't know every item that belonged to them personally or was county property. I think the same applies at the fairgrounds. There's numerous items there that there's questions. Are they county property or do they belong to some other organization? So I think at some time we need to find out what the county owns and what different departments own. And I don't know if we're going to have a public sale this year or not, but a lot of this stuff could be just cleaned up and gotten out of the way.
I'd just like to comment on the county managers, all the progress that's been made, the Council on Aging building, getting that finished up on time, and all the jail business in general, the court situation, that's all coming together, and thanks for the job they've done on that, and I'd like to set us a goal or put this out there about our quarter-cent sales tax. We really need to get a program in place to start putting this out there and educating people in what it's all about, what it covers, what it don't cover. I think sometime in the middle to late August would be time to start that, but we can talk about that a different day. But really need to try to promote that quarter-cent sales tax, because when you leave Allegheny County, I don't know where you go, you're paying a quarter-cent sales tax. So really appreciate and hope people will really consider voting for the quarter-cent this time. That's all I have. Commissioner Prince.
I agree with you on that. I think we definitely need to push that. This probably needs to be an agenda for next item, but the Beamer Fund we've not talked about in months. I think we have talked in the past about a splash pad, which I think would be good for the county. As we had some restrictions this year on not opening the pool, but I'd like to see a proposal on putting in a splash pad and use the Beamer funds, whatever's left, to do that. Hopefully it'll be enough to cover it. Other than that, buy local.
Farmers market's open. I don't know how many people are aware of that. The farmers market's in full swing. Irvin.
Well, I learned something today. Whenever I looked at the Allegheny County Economic Development Committee, 2017 Form 990, briefly described the organization's mission or most significant activities, promoting economic development within Allegheny County. Of course, I assumed, and everybody knows what assume does, make something out of you and me. I assumed that it was an economic development, which it is, but it was for an entirely different matter, as Mr. Brown showed us today. Now, if you don't like what happened today with people questioning, look at government. Governance is kind of like making sausage. You may like the end product, but you don't want to see the process. My grandfather was chair of the Allegheny County Commissioners for 4 years, I believe. He was a commissioner for 12, Dylan Edwards. Took pride that Allegheny County owed nothing whenever he walked out of office. I've tried to look at every penny, everything that I did. One thing that gets under my daggone skin is whenever we look in Allegheny County, it seems to be the same people sitting on the same things, and they just keep on doing the same thing time after time after time. And as Admiral Rickover said, we say we do. This is why I lean towards establishing an office in the county for economic development. An employee that would be permanent, have access to all of the data, the information, so that we can try and bring economic development into this county in an organized way. Right now, Mr. Cavaney, I've got to hand it to him. He's doing the best he can. He works a limited number of hours. But my God, you look at the contract, there's no way on God's green earth that he can do what is called for in here. We have got to quit saying and start doing. We need to look at this contract. We need to look at the running of that organization over there. $150 a month. That's a deal. I'd never move out if I had a business. We have got to look at it if with $150 for the first year, increase it to $250 the second year so that we can start building it up. The county is getting the short end of the stick. We're providing all this space for Wilkes Community College. You know what we get for it? $25. $25. Library. We are giving the library about $200,000 a year. The regional library, I believe, is in the budget for this year. We are budgeted. We're providing funds to Wilkes Community College, plus the building. We're paying for the heat. The county's doing all this. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are facing a financial crisis, and we have things looming in front of us. It's a minefield out there. So we're all under pressure. We all beginning to feel it. It's not going to get any better. Mr. Prince said I shouldn't have run for the election. I got news for you. Put my fanny out. You don't like what I'm doing? Pull the lever. Vote my fanny out. As long as I'm sitting here and I have some questions, I'm going to bring them out. And too much put under rocks in this county. If I can lift one up and let the cockroaches roll, I'm going to do it. Vote me out, please. I passed up another trip to Kenya. I would have loved to have gone back to Kenya for a month. My duty is here. Never shirk my duty as a Marine. I will not shirk my duty as a county commissioner. If I make you uncomfortable, tough. That's my job.
You're the ones that need to change. Agreeing with you, sir.
All right? That's fine. I don't want you to agree with me. Date is good. We need to bring it out. Godspeed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We got a request for a closed session. Criminal statute 143/318.11.a/6 personnel. It include April. Yes. Men on that. Get that. A motion, a second. All in favor? Raise your right hand.
I'll be right back.